I learned today about cookie tables.
Oh, yes. That is actually one of the things that we do exceptionally well. And I'm amazed that people have A, not caught on to that, and B, don't do it more because
Well, it is
they are
just
phenomenal.
recently caught on in the East Kootenays region of British Columbia. So I will be implementing a cookie table at all of my
There
gatherings
is
from here on
not a
out.
place named East Kootenays.
I live in the East Kootenays, brother. I sure do.
Yeah, brother.
That gets a hell yeah, brother, for me.
You don't know how you're going to react when Caldwell Nation runs wild on you.
And speaking of getting the party started.
For the victory lap, though. They ain't never seen nothing like this before. Lit the room when I came through the front door. Ask me if I should overcome, what for? Train in the trees, please walk my sycamore. Touch burning sands, cross lands and stormy shore seasons in the year, yeah. Switch gears, with keeping haters in the rear. At the blood, sweat and tears and my goal so near. I see my victory so clear. I see my victory so clear. It's a day, we break through. 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 It's a day, we break through.
What's up, everybody? It is time for your favorite podcast in the world, and the only one that we can find, oddly enough, we should trademark it, that talks about our two loves exclusively, that being Formula One and football American, as the French like to say. It's the Gridiron Podcast. What episode are we on, Nick? 52?
Yep, 52.
We've made it an official calendar year. It's taken us more than a calendar year, but we've officially made it a calendar year full of podcasts. As always, I am Sean Barie. Joining us, if you're watching on Twitch, Twitter, or YouTube, up in the left-hand corner, he's wearing a hat, but he is bald. The bald behemoth holding down the fort in the land.
You just
Nick
had to bring
Shook.
it up.
Well, normally he's got the chrome dome. Just there it is. Bald is beautiful as he turns around the cap to reveal a Guardians cap.
A little hairy.
Guards.
I'm wearing a hat.
Go Guards, man. I'm sorry they ripped your heart out, but that's what baseball is. Also joining us, as she always does, from her nook up there in British Columbia, our Canadian queen, Katie Caldwell. Guys, how we doing this week?
What a week. Nick, what a week. Sorry about your Guardians.
Yeah. Hey, look, man, I saw all three ALCS games in person, which was a real treat to be able to witness all of those. I saw one of the most legendary baseball comebacks I'll ever see in Game 3 of that series. And then I watched my team get beat by a team with a payroll that is triple of my team. So, it is what it is. It's baseball. But I'm doing great. Fighting a cold, but I'm doing great.
Katie?
I love this time of year for sports with the NBA starting and NHL, and it's Frozen Frenzy today, which seems incredibly wild to happen on a Tuesday, but they're kind of doing a red zone-esque thing where all the NHL teams are playing, and cool in theory, but you'd think it'd be like sweet on a Saturday or something on a Tuesday.
Yeah. No, Tuesdays, damn it. We're the NHL.
On Tuesdays,
I just love this time of year for sports. We've got NFL and F1, and that race was good. It's a good week, you guys.
It's also a little weird that the NHL is like, we are doing this Frozen Frenzy on the day that the NBA season starts. They can't do Saturday because college football. They can't do Sunday because of NFL. Can't do Monday because of NFL. Can't do Thursday because of NFL. I mean, Tuesday is not spoken for. And I mean, I've always felt like Tuesday is an underappreciated day. Maybe because it sucks, but the NHL might be able to change that.
Doesn't suck as bad as Monday, though, and that's the important part.
I don't know. Mondays, yeah, like it sucks going to work on a Monday, but like Tuesday is kind of like the crap. We're still here, and we still have another 4 days to go.
You guys are giving big Garfield energy today. I live for it.
Give me some lasagna.
I was about to say I didn't even eat lasagna or see a cat named Normal today. We've got a lot to get into this week. So race in Austin, that just happened, U.S. Grand Prix. We'll get into that. First, we're going to talk about the NFL. Week 7 in the books. I feel like we're starting to separate the wheat from the chaff, as they like to say.
Anytime you've used that phrase.
Yeah, well, it's just kind of in my repertoire right now.
Just keeping you honest.
I'm just I'm just keeping it going, man. I'm trying to keep this thing on the rails as much as possible. Got a tight schedule to meet. So I'll turn it over to you, our NFL talent writer at NFL.com. Nick, what stood out to you this week?
Well, Lions Vikings was a banger. It was a freaking war between two teams atop the NFC North. Hell of a game, back and forth. And if you have NFL Plus, and if you want to support my company, you will subscribe to NFL Plus. Check that out on condensed, of course, because nobody's got 2 hours to watch the game and all the nonsense in between. But nice tight 43 minutes on that replay. We also saw the Bills come back from being down 10-0 to beat the Titans. The Seahawks pull away from the Falcons with 3 straight turnovers. The Jacksonville Jaguars pull off a resounding win over the lowly New England Patriots at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, the final London game of the year.
No, that was at Wembley. That was at Wembley.
It was at Wembley. You're right. My bad. I should know that. But again, the Rams won a game in which the Raiders only kicked field goals because the Raiders quarterback situation is hell on earth.
I mean, hey, sometimes not everybody, excuse me, as he flexes.
We'll
can win a game only kicking field goals.
The Commanders dominated the Panthers even after losing Jaden Daniels in their first drive of the game. Hopefully he'll be back this week when they play the Bears. I got flexed to 425. That's a big moment. Chiefs, in the words of Kyle Shanahan, kicked the 49ers asses. And yes, that's pretty much what it looked like. Brock Purdy had a terrible day. And then we had a few primetime bangers. We had the Steelers game, which we'll get to. We had the Ravens taking the Buccaneers to the woodshed, and then the Buccaneers took themselves to the woodshed because they kept their starters in too long, and Chris Godwin got hurt. Unfortunate, very unfortunate for them. And then a less aesthetically pleasing game between the Cardinals and Chargers. Did I go through most of the schedule just now? Yes, I did, but it was one of those weeks, man. It was just one of those weeks, up and down, peaks and valleys, good games, not so good games, high scoring, not high scoring. It's the NFL in a nutshell, where any given Sunday, anything is possible.
That Chargers and Cardinals game, the first game ever to be streamed exclusively on ESPN Plus, and couldn't have happened to a better game because compared to the show that the Ravens were putting on down here at Ray J. Kind of really sucked. I was at that game last night on the field, and the air just got sucked out of that place in the second quarter, and it was never put back in, especially after Mike Evans re-aggravated his hamstring injury. It's seriously, there's a running joke down here in Tampa Bay: death, taxes, and Mike Evans pulling a hammy at some point in the season. But it kind of became obvious that he probably should not have been in that game to begin with, because I was right there in that end zone when Mike Evans caught that opening drive touchdown pass from Baker Mayfield, and he got up and immediately just kind of didn't grab his hamstring, but you know when like you pull something, you're like, you just kind of squeeze a little bit, just give yourself a little like, just checking on it. Exactly. Like, that doesn't feel great, but I'm good. And then there was a noticeable limp on the sidelines. Like, hey, he didn't practice all week and maybe shouldn't be in this game right now. And sure enough, I mean, he went down hard, re-aggravated it. And you could tell, again, I was about 10 feet away from him when he got up from that hamstring injury, and he was wincing in pain. And so he's going to be out at least 3 weeks. Chris Godwin, the rest of the season for dislocating an ankle. I hope I never know the pain of dislocating an ankle.
I hope that coaches stop putting players in with 1 minute left and a 10-point deficit with no timeouts left and risk their injury, even if they're still trying to win. And it's all the guys we had left were trying to win the game, like Todd Bowles said. At the same time, it's not worth the risk, guys. It's just.
I also heard that they had already recovered one onside kick, attempted a second. Are there rules this year that say you can only do?
No,
okay,
that is misinformation provided by faulty Google AI, which. I don't know if you've paid attention to the internet in the last couple of months, but the Google AI has produced some hilariously inaccurate results when you ask them certain questions.
The internet is cooked.
Yes.
But aside from that, everything's fine. But the internet is cooked.
I mean, my parents always said, don't believe everything you read on the internet. And now they're the ones that believe everything on the internet. I'm kidding. Bob and Kathy would never.
But most of their generation will. But that's neither here nor there.
I mentioned it. I hope to never know the pain of a dislocated ankle. I also hope to never know the pain of being a New York Jets fan, because they absolutely have just gone through the ringer this season. Aaron Rodgers comes back after last year, all the optimism in the world for Aaron Rodgers to tear his Achilles 5 snaps into the season. Okay, all right, we can throw that season out the window. Aaron Rodgers is coming back next year. We're healthy. We got Hassan Reddick. Nope, never mind. We don't have Hassan Reddick. He's a holdout. But we got Aaron Rodgers. We got all of his buddies, and they start off to a 2-4 or 2-3 start. Fire Robert Saleh. My question was, and I posed this last week, if his leash was so short that a 2-3 start got him axed, why was he even back in the first place? Okay, so you fire Robert Saleh, you demote Nathaniel Hackett. What next? Okay, we still lost. Well, it's Davante Adams time, baby. Boom. We bring in another Aaron Rodgers, not disciple, but Aaron Rodgers buddy. We got Alan Lazard. We got Davante Adams. We got Nathaniel Hackett.
But Sean, he's not running the show.
No. Aaron Rodgers is 100% not running the show. They go into Pittsburgh for Sunday Night Football. They're up 15-6, ready to go into the half. Maybe they get a couple extra points before the half, and they get the ball coming out of the half. Everything is going well in Pittsburgh. Russell Wilson looks terrible. And then Aaron Rodgers throws a pick to Beanie Bishop, baby. And then Russell Wilson remembers he's Mr. Unlimited. He starts cooking on Sunday Night Football, which leads to a 22-point loss for the New York Jets. They're now 2-5. For all intents and purposes, their season it's not over, but it is on life support. I mean, it is on life support. So I feel like now's a bit of time to have some fun because Aaron Rodgers, again, guys, not pulling the strings at all. No, he's not in charge. But 2 weeks ago, his head coach gets fired. Last week, his old buddy Davante Adams,
and his buddy stayed on staff despite losing his job. And in any other scenario,
Nathaniel Hackett got fired too. Demoted for being a terrible offensive coordinator, not fired. Got Davante Adams. So that was just through week 7. So I asked the question, guys, what is Aaron Rodgers going to ask for next?
Katie, take it away.
Nick, you don't want to throw anything in first? Do you want, because you threw a few in the doc that we can use
I made a little bit of a list. Well, week 7.
We're going to go a little off the rails with this one. So
yeah. Nick, I'll ask you whose line is it anyway style. Nick, what is Aaron Rodgers going to ask for next?
Well, he's already got Davante Adams on his team, and Hassan Reddick is supposedly returning. So let's see. This is a guy who was floated as a VP candidate for an outlier third-party candidate who ended up getting out of the race. So 2 weeks from now, perhaps he'll ask for an election recount.
Oh, I don't like that one.
That one feels a little too likely.
Hanging Chads.
I thought we were going to have fun here, guys. I thought we were just having a nice, fun evening talking about football and making fun of Aaron Rodgers. I didn't know we were cutting that deep. Katie.
Well,
if you want, I can take us directly off the rails. And
what's Aaron Rodgers
for a bit?
Katie, what's Aaron Rodgers going to ask for next?
I'm looking at around week 14. The Jets are still just as shit, except this time we can't keep lying to ourselves saying they're just a quarterback away. Because it's a whole mess. Week 14, around that time, I'm going to say that Aaron Rodgers is going to ask Danica Patrick if she'll take him back.
Ooh.
So for those that don't know,
this goes along with the election recount theory. I like it.
Same vibe. For those that don't know, these two dated and split in 2020, and they're so funny to me because if they hadn't previously dated, I would look at these two individuals and go, wow, what a perfect match. They should go out on a date. What I didn't know until some light research today is that these two did ayahuasca together in Peru, where Rodgers said that he learned self-love.
Oh.
Which I did not know that was a thing for him prior to the darkness retreat. Anyways, for those that don't know about Danica Patrick's podcast.
Oh boy.
So I myself haven't listened to an episode of the Lizard People podcast because I respect myself, but I'm going to flag a few key points from what I was able to find online and listen to this, keeping in mind that she is a Sky Sports presenter. So this is what Danica Patrick talked about on a podcast. Reptilians invented money to control us, but they have been increasingly concerned that the humans are starting to gain power. But just for our listeners that are concerned, luckily, the Galactic Federation says that the Earth belongs to humans, so we're fine. But many celebrities and politicians that we're all aware of, including Adele and Justin Bieber, are actually reptilians. So if anyone
I
has
knew that British
tickets,
singer's voice was too damn good to be true.
and Justin Bieber is just a boy from St. Catharines, Ontario, but he's got some wicked ass powers. So in the next 4 years, Justin Bieber will accidentally shapeshift into a reptilian on stage, but there will be no memory of it because the crowd will have their minds wiped.
Ah.
Yes. So if you have tickets to an upcoming Justin Bieber concert, it could be anytime within the next 4 years. Be aware of that, but then don't worry, you just might not remember it. And her guest, Elizabeth April, says that she has a rocket scientist friend at NASA, and all of this is incredibly real. So that is more than enough information for me to absolutely buy into this. Is she not the perfect match for Aaron Rodgers and the trajectory that he has been on?
Oh, well, I'll tell you what, that was definitely triple sourced, Katie. Those claims on that podcast were definitely triple sourced. And you know what?
Nick,
This checks
I'm
out
going to
to
go
me.
ahead and say I did my own research on this one. You can trust me.
Katie, all I have to say to this is, ma'am, this is a Wendy's.
Ma'am, this is a Wendy's. And yeah, seeing Danica on the broadcast, I'm literally shaking my head going, what are we doing? And you all know this about me, like women in motorsport, I will always advocate for. She is the one lone exception, and I just want to make note of that. Like, she on an F1 Kids broadcast one time was discouraging the mere prospect of women one day being capable of racing in F1 thanks to their feminine mind. So you can miss me with that one. She doesn't get my support, but yeah, it's so funny. This podcast kind of feels perfect for this conversation because they dated football, motorsport, F1 commentator. It kind of feels like he's watching what she's up to, and he's kind of like, I can catch this vibe. You want to talk about reptile people? You want to talk about the lizards? Come back, baby. I made a mistake. Come on back. That's
Week
my
14.
prediction.
I want to know how the reptilians factor into the Jets' downfall. That's what I want to know, and I'm sure we'll unpack that if that happens. Sean,
Nick, do you think the color green is just a coincidence?
Of course not. Follow the money. Also green, kind of. Sean, what else will Aaron Rodgers ask for?
I believe, and I'm kind of going along with Katie's vibes here, he is going to ask for an ancient Incan shaman / witch doctor to be put on team retainer. No explanation needed. He will also ask for, again, Katie already mentioned it, ayahuasca to be put on tap in the players' lounge.
Oh my God. If you've ever read the details of an ayahuasca trip, oh, that's carnage in that locker room.
It sure is.
Our commenters are very much enjoying this. Madden chimes in and says, I mean, if you were going to hide as a lizard person, we're better than Ontario. Lemon Bendy also has a submission.
I would say maybe Saskatchewan, but Ontario also works.
Nova Scotia, perhaps? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, none of it.
Yeah.
My second one, Sean, nice one. I actually had another one about including staff onto the roster, so I'll just quickly throw that one. Ask the Jets if they can hire Joe Rogan and Dr. Jordan Peterson as spirituality consultants for the team.
It felt like that one was coming. You can't have a proper Jets season without Throw Rogan and Joe Rogan in the same room. Lemon Bendy says, Aaron Rodgers will ask them to trade for Mercedes Lewis, the elder statesman of the NFL, the plotting tight end who was plotting about 10 years ago and is still somehow on an NFL roster.
Somebody get Randall Cobb on the line.
I think that was along with you. He will also ask for a bionicle clone of David Bakhtiari to be signed to the active roster.
Well, he could use it because his left tackle situation with Tyron Smith is not doing well. Alex Highsmith ate him alive in that game on Sunday night.
In a game where they spent half the time just blocking TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith was eating.
Yeah. I had an excused absence for an ayahuasca trip, but I think we've already covered that base. So we're going to go all the way to week 17, and he's going to ask for AJ Hawk, his close personal friend and his connection to the Pat McAfee show, to also be added to the staff.
The Jets are just going to keep
Will he be there in person
staffing.
or just virtually smoking cigars the entire time?
I mean, James Jones once got a job with the Cavs because LeBron was there, so we're not that far off here. And it'll be virtual, Sean, because he never leaves that room.
I was going to say, he lives in that room just smoking stogies. But hey, if anything, the playoffs hopes are still alive. If he just gets one more friend, just one more buddy. Guys, I think we can all agree, though, that this Jets season and Aaron Rodgers, in fact, have both been immunized from the playoffs.
Oh, boom, bang, bow, nailed it. Applause track right now. Good job, Sean.
Thank you. I'll be here all week and weeks to
Sean,
come.
what else happened this weekend in the NFL that is topical?
Well, we talked about the injuries to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin a little later, and everyone absolutely gutted for them. Staples in the NFL, Mike Evans, a surefire Hall of Famer, caught his 100th touchdown pass of his career last night before his injury. Fifth fastest player to ever do it. He joins guys like Randy Moss and Jerry Rice, like good names to be associated with. So we absolutely feel gutted for those two guys. They're good guys. They've played their entire careers in one location. Depending on how you feel, don't feel as bad for a certain quarterback in the AFC North. Deshaun Watson ruptured Achilles, so he's out for the season. Likely his time in Cleveland is done. The writing is on the wall. They're going to have to take a $174 million bath. But, hey, it's just money, baby. So Cleveland caught a lot of hate. The fans caught a lot of hate from the players, from the press, because they cheered while Deshaun Watson was carted off the field. Right or wrong, they have a right to do it, right?
Mhm.
At the same time, because this is a guy who had 25 sexual assault allegations against him. And here's a fan base that didn't have to stand up for him for that, but they did they had to cheer for him because cheering for him meant cheering for the success of their team. So,
Well, and plus the new one, Sean. That was the old 25, and then we had a whole new round of accusations, so
I thought we were only up to 25 total. How many are there now?
I lost count.
Oh my gosh. Okay, they had the right to cheer then. Despite Myles Garrett or Jameis Winston, which, by the way, before we get into more fun stuff, can I just say, Jameis, just quiet down there, sir.
you might want to look at Jameis's Wikipedia before.
Correct, sir. Look, I know none of us on this podcast have a squeaky clean record, but the most I've ever stolen from a grocery store was a batch of blueberries a couple of weeks ago at Costco because I forgot to scan them. I'm sorry, Costco. Please don't revoke my membership. And the worst thing I ever did to an Uber driver was forget to tip them sometimes because after a night out, sometimes you just go right to bed. Sorry, I feel bad. I tip them the next day. But Jameis, you have other ideas on what to do with Uber drivers and what to do at grocery stores and in college, cafeterias. So you can go look that up for yourself. So maybe Jameis, just settle down there, buddy.
I would have sat that one out if I was Jameis.
I love how he said, now this is another obstacle for him to overcome. I'm sorry. An obstacle is a very poor choice of words to describe victims. That's a weird way to describe a sexual assault victim. But that's neither here nor there. Let's get back to the fun stuff.
Also calling him, was it Myles Garrett calling him a stand-up citizen? I'm like,
oh, I didn't hear that. Oh,
do you
boy.
understand what those words mean? Because
physical assaultist calling sexual assaultist a stand-up person. Oh, man.
Very
wonderful.
cool.
Wonderful. Regardless, it seems like the Deshaun Watson tenure in Cleveland is now over. So, with that being said, you do feel like a weight has been lifted off Browns fans' shoulders. Not for this season, because this season is already a train wreck and is just going to continue to spin and spiral and continue off the track. But at the same time, they don't have to pretend to cheer and like Deshaun Watson anymore. So I pose the question to you guys. What would Browns fans rather do than ever willingly cheer for Deshaun Watson again?
I'll start this one off. Browns fans would rather admit that Rich Carlos's game-winning field goal in the 1986 AFC title game against the Broncos, that is the drive game, by the way, the field goal in overtime to send the Broncos to the Super Bowl, appeared to go over the upright. Didn't quite look like it was good. And if the uprights were as tall as they are today, probably would have clanged off there and not been good. But it was ruled good. And they would admit that it was indeed good, even if it didn't look like it.
I like it. Katie, what would Browns fans rather do than ever willingly cheer for Deshaun Watson again?
Sean, if I'm a Browns fan, I would rather shotgun 3 Dortmunder gold lagers and bathe in the Cuyahoga River while it is on fire than cheer for Deshaun Watson.
Wow, somebody went deep dive on Cleveland today.
Damn it, Katie. You stole one of mine.
Stop, I did.
Yes, I had take a swim while the Cuyahoga was on fire.
Hey, it hasn't been on fire since 1969, okay? The EPA was created because of that, all right? Let me defend
First,
Cleveland for a
as
second.
I learned today, all the attention led to the Clean Water Act and then eventually the EPA.
Yes.
So, and a lot of people think, now I know so much about this river. A lot of people think that 1969 was the first fire. There were actually 13 before that.
13.
13.
Think about that. Yeah. James Earl Jones once narrated a video that showed just how dirty that water was.
Well, if it happens to catch on fire for a 15th time, I would rather bathe in it than cheer on Deshaun Watson. So
I will say this, chugging Dortmunder Gold is actually, I mean, it's hard because it's a hearty beer, but at the same time, it's a delicious beer.
That
Oh,
was a
I
great
said
leak last
shotgun.
weekend.
Oh, shotgun.
3 straight
Wow.
shotguns.
I actually don't know if they sell that
shotgun
in
a Christmas
cans.
ale. They do sell it in cans,
Oh.
but shotgun a Christmas ale, that
Yeah,
would be a
Nick,
tougher task.
I'm gonna need you to send me some Great Lakes Christmas ales because we don't get them down here in Florida. I think that Browns fans would rather wear a Ben Roethlisberger jersey to a Muni Lot tailgate for an entire afternoon than ever cheer for Deshaun Watson again.
I actually had one in the same vein. I think the Browns would rather admit that the Steelers and the Ravens are both superior teams to the Browns, both in the past, present, and future, than root for Deshaun Watson.
Katie?
If I'm a Browns fan, I would rather spend 650 straight days in a darkness retreat with no ayahuasca with Danica Patrick talking to me about lizard people than cheer for Deshaun Watson.
I like how we're just tying the two topics together now.
God, that sounds brutal. I actually have a buddy who likes to joke that because we get along so well that you could just put us in a dark room and just with a bucket to relieve ourselves, and we would just sit there and talk for hours. That sounds like this ayahuasca retreat, except without the ayahuasca.
I need some beer at least. I think Browns fans would rather watch all 16 games of the 2016 season back to back to back in one viewing than ever cheer for Deshaun Watson again.
No breaks.
No breaks, just 16 straight losses, full games, commercials and everything.
Not the commercials.
Oh, God, the commercials are probably bad. Troy Meeker chiming in says, Katie's is the winner. Congrats, Katie.
Yeah.
Thank you, Troy.
I got one more, Nick. Do you have any more?
Go ahead with yours.
Okay, I think Browns fans would rather write a love letter to Art Modell than ever cheer for Deshaun Watson again.
Oh, wow. That is deep. They would like to see it. They would let him get in the Hall of Fame before they would want to cheer for Deshaun Watson again. They've been pushing against that for years. Browns fans would rather watch the Golden State Warriors sweep the Cavs in the finals consecutively for the next 10 years than root for Deshaun Watson again.
If y'all can't tell, not big Deshaun Watson fans on this podcast.
No. We are the Gridiron Podcast. Not big fans of either Throw Rogan or Deshaun Watson.
This is a big episode for me personally as a hater of Deshaun and Aaron Rodgers. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and share my gratitude.
It's been a great week for you, Katie. Great week for you. On the other side of this game, though, we had a quarterback come off the injured list and just absolutely ball out. Not for the entire game, because let's be honest, Russell Wilson was rusty at the start of this game, and it looked rough. And you had, I mean, it was kind of, I felt bad for him a little bit too, because you had Heinz Field booing him in the first half of this game. Think about that. Your first game, you're a Hall of Famer, right? He's going to go to the Hall of Fame someday. He has a Super Bowl to his name, been to 2 Super Bowls, 13th season in the league. First game starting for a historic franchise like the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's getting booed coming off the field. That's a rough look. Is able to turn it around, lead them to a 22-point win over Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. By the way, Nick, I'm just realizing that I was supposed to talk about the Steelers before the Browns, so I'm sorry.
Well, actually, can I interrupt you real quick just because Chris chimed in with something really great?
Okay.
He said Browns fans would rather have to start each of the quarterbacks on the back of that infamous jersey again in reverse order than cheer on Deshaun Watson.
In reverse order?
So wait, are we starting?
Start with Watson.
Well, no, you would start with Flacco.
Start with Joe Flacco.
You would start with Joe Flacco, and then
you would end
progressively worse.
You would end with Tim Couch and Ty Detmer, to which he says, "Let's go, Tim Couch."
Go, Tim Couch.
God, I can't wait. I cannot wait until we get to the Charlie Fry era.
Oh, I can't wait for Deshaun Kaiser, baby. Let's do it.
2021 Baker Mayfield again. Oh, that'd be great.
Ken Dorsey, get out there.
Oh, man. Johnny Manziel. That's going to be a fun one to watch. I like that. Good job, Troy.
Seneca Wallace.
So after the Steelers beat the brakes off the Jets by 22 points, 37-15, your final score there on Sunday Night Football, everyone kept talking about, all right, what's Russell Wilson's new slogan going to be? He said, "Go Hawks" in Seattle. He said, "Let's ride" in Denver. And they even asked him, it was so awkward on the post-game interview, all right, Russell, give us your new catchphrase. And he was like, we'll wait for that one. They're like, what do you mean we'll wait? He's like, we'll wait. He didn't have one. He was trying not to be rude. Good on him for not being super corny, knowing that it really doesn't fly in a city like Pittsburgh. So I thought we could help him out. Let's come up with a new catchphrase for Russell Wilson. And as the resident Pittsburgher, do you guys mind if I start?
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right. So I like this one. Steelers Nation, let's ride the Duquesne Incline.
Katie, you probably didn't Wikipedia that, but that is a very old method of transportation that goes up Mount Washington on rails, trolleys on rails. It takes forever, but it's a tourist attraction.
Joke's on you. I learned a shocking amount about Pittsburgh today, and I actually did stumble across that. And I went down a bit of a weird rabbit hole when I didn't have the time to do that.
She's like, where are the other inclines in America?
This could also to several other things, such as Steelers Nation, let's ride the Just Ducky Tours, which are duck boats that both go on the streets and in the water that you go on your little third grade field trips. Steelers Nation, let's ride the Gateway Clipper Fleet, which is our fleet of paddle boats that you can go on for dinner cruises and such. It can be used for a lot in Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? So that's what I got.
Nick.
Katie, would you like to? Okay, all right, I'll go next. Steelers Nation, let's gird. Like
Gird.
Gird. It's made of steel.
Is that a verb?
I don't know.
Can you gird something?
Gird
your loins?
Gird your loins. That was off the dome. The bald dome.
Katie.
Okay, we ready?
Yeah.
Steelers country, get off the couch and meet me downtown for some football and that.
Steelers Nation, don't forget to put your clothes in the washer.
It's actually pronounced Stillers, Nick. Please have some respect.
Sorry, I don't talk with a mouthful of loose,
Katie, thank
rusty change.
That was my first time in my life. Yes.
If I may, lean into the Canadian accent more, because we have been described as a people that sound like drunk Canadians with a mouthful of loose change. So lean into that aboutness just a little bit more, and I think you almost got it. But yeah,
well, as someone who has been a drunk Canadian before, I feel like this is right up my alley.
I think, yeah, you can get it. You can absolutely get it. Steelers Nation, let's forge.
Nice. I like that one.
That one's a bit serious. Yeah, that one's a bit serious.
Forge ahead. Something like that. Made of steel. Steelers Nation, let's put fries on our sandwiches like Primanti's.
Who actually came out with the Dangerous sandwich today. He officially has. Took him one game. He's got a Primanti sandwich.
I learned today about cookie tables.
Oh, yes. That is actually one of the things that we do exceptionally well. And I'm amazed that people have A, not caught on to that, and B, don't do it more, because
it is just recently caught on in the East Kootenays region of British Columbia. So I will be implementing a cookie table at all of my
There is not a place named East Kootenays.
I live in the East Kootenays, brother. I sure do.
Yeah, brother.
That gets a hell yeah, brother, for me.
You don't know how you're going to react when Caldwell Nation runs wild on you.
You guys going down to East Kootenays later there? Get some icy light, watch the Steelers game?
I think Canadians and Pittsburgh folk and Yinzers do sound shockingly alike.
A little bit, yeah.
Scary. Steelers Nation, let's get into a bar fight on the south side.
South side. Steelers Nation,
the north side.
57 varieties. little nod to our greatest export, Heinz ketchup.
I'm all out. I'm all out.
Yeah, I had only one.
Okay.
I felt really great about it.
I think there's some bangers in there. So Russ, Mr. Unlimited, hit us up. Maybe come on the podcast. I don't know. We can spitball some more catchphrase slogans. Unless your catchphrase really is just now, we'll wait.
Mr. Sometimes Limited.
Chris said, "Oh, the Forge one was good," and then he said, "Katie, can you spell that?"
Yes.
East Kootenays.
Oh, East Kootenays? Kootenays. So it's spelled Kootenays.
But it's
so our WHL team before we lost them was called the Kootenay Ice. Which crickets. Okay, well, hockey fans will know that.
Kootenay Ice.
Kootenay Ice. Sounds like a bad beer.
Yeah, I live in the East Coots.
It's a topic for another day, but hockey names are just so shockingly bad.
Yes.
You gotta get Ice and Blade in there. If Utah, whenever they decide to name themselves, just come out as the Utah Yeti, I'm gonna riot because that.
No, they already named themselves. They're just the hockey club.
They're gonna come up
forever. I wish Washington football team was the football team forever.
No,
I'm glad it's not.
No.
By the way, I can confirm the Kootenays because Katie and I share each other's locations, and sometimes it'll just pop up, and like her text is like somewhere in the East Kootenays. Like, I won't say somewhere, but it'll just say like, generally speaking, East Kootenays.
Kootenays,
Sometimes
dirty
it
knees.
says-
Look at these.
Sometimes it says Kimberly, BC, and then I'm just off frolicking somewhere weird. It's just like she's somewhere in the East Kootenays.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty
Kootenays.
much.
Is that a mountain range, or is that a plain? Like, what is?
No,
the
I'm in the
Kootenays?
Rockies.
Yeah. So, like, what are the Kootenays? What is the Kootenays then?
So there's an East and West Kootenays, and it's just like basically the region made up of quite a few rural towns. So ours is like Kimberly, Cranbrook, Fernie, all the things.
So
You know
it's
what?
like a county in Pennsylvania, like Beaver County.
There's Intercourse, Pennsylvania. I mean, there's Regina, Saskatchewan. There's Kootenays, British Columbia. Man, Canadians and Pennsylvanians, we are kindred spirits.
There's also a Dildo, Saskatchewan.
Oh,
Oh,
God, I
wow.
love Canada.
Wow, we have
Oh,
totally gone off the
Canada.
rails.
Nick, this episode started off the rails. We just got to keep it there. We have to live where we're at right now.
Live in the chaos. Live in the chaos.
This is my
That's it.
favorite type of episode.
That's all I have for football. Figure we do something different than just recap games like every other podcast on the planet.
Yeah, this is what we're going to be doing for every week now. If you have any segments for us, hit us up on our email. You can hit us up on social media. Our email, again, at thegridironpodcast3@gmail.com. That's thegridironpodcast3. Damn those other two. At gmail.com. All right, let's shift gears.
In that.
Let's shift gears to F1. We're coming off the backs. Pause. Of the U.S. Grand Prix at the Circuit of the Americas. We're so far off the rails on this podcast, and I love it.
It's the way you caught yourself.
You're doing great, Sean.
Let's go. Let's head over to Austin. U.S. Grand Prix. Ferrari. Where'd you guys come from? Look at you little scamps. From
you little pretty horses.
Yeah, from P3 and 4 up to 1 and 2 on the podium. And then you had Max Verstappen coming home third, Lando Norris fourth, Oscar Piastri fifth to round out the top five. For the first time ever in his career, Lewis Hamilton did not finish a race on American soil. He had done so 19 times at Miami, Vegas, Austin, and Indianapolis. He had never failed to finish a race on U.S. soil until Sunday.
And it was that damn the damn penultimate turn of the entire track. It got a bunch of people. It got Alex Albon. It got George Russell in qualifying, which ruined Max Verstappen's attempt to best Lando Norris. It got Lewis Hamilton early in the race. It wasn't even that curb. It was that curb for Albon, but it wasn't that curb for the other two. It just got a little loose around the corner and went spinning around into the gravel. Russell hit the wall.
Well, Russell hitting the wall at the end of quali, by the way, I felt a bit validated because my bold prediction was he was going to fire it into the wall because it's been a while.
Hell yeah.
But I didn't think it was going to be in quali. But over the whole weekend, I felt a little correct on that one. So turn one, though, you're talking about the penultimate turn. Who was on pole? I can't remember who started the race on pole.
You know, it escapes me right now. Your guess is as good as mine.
Gee, I
okay.
feel I'm drawing a blank, but it's an orange and chrome blank.
We'll just chalk it up to none of us remember. That's okay.
It was forgettable who was on pole. That's for sure.
John, do you want to talk about it?
No, I don't. But I guess we have to because this is a podcast. Lando Norris was on pole. Yeah, he just bottled it again. He just absolutely bottled it. Honestly, I'm gonna say this. This might have been the worst bottle job of his season so far. Like, the knock on him has been gets pole, can't lead after lap one, can't lead after, and that turned into can't lead after turn one. And finally, at the Singapore Grand Prix, he leads wire to wire, a dominant win. Absolutely crushes it. Then they head back into this second summer break, and we head to Austin. And everyone's like, Lando Norris is back. He's gonna, contend for the title now, or at least make it close. And all week long, honestly, that McLaren just didn't look good at Austin. To be fair, like it just didn't look great in practice. Didn't look great in sprint qualifying. Didn't look great in the sprint. Like, it just didn't look great. And then all of a sudden, it started to come alive there in the actual race. The tires were starting to help it out a bit. But Lando Norris on pole, and if you've never seen the U.S. Grand Prix or you don't know much about COTA, it's a great track. It is an absolutely wonderful track. You start off on the front straight, and you immediately head up about a 300-meter hill with a hairpin left-hand turn. And I love watching this track because NASCAR races here too. And if you can imagine about 40 NASCARs going into that corner, it's as chaotic as you think it would be. Track limits don't exist at NASCAR races, so don't worry about that. But it is fun because cars can just bang into each other. But it's the guy that cuts the corner who always comes out ahead. And that's all you need to do at that corner. Cut that corner, keep it tight. Lando Norris got off great from the start. He cuts off Max, and he just then let up. It was the damnedest thing. He's heading up the hill. He definitely cut off Max, but he left the door open. All he had to do was slam the door, close it. All he had to do was move back over a little bit to the left, and he just left the door open for Max and the two Ferraris that soared past him. Just an absolute bottle job by Lando Norris, and it's just I can't make any kind of excuse for him. It was horrible. That start was all-time bad.
You know, I'm actually disappointed that you took this approach to this because in the rundown, you have Max conveniently forgets how to turn his car.
We can get to that later, but I got to be honest with the
Well, I thought you meant about that too, because that was just Max winning the inside. You know, it was Lando blowing it as he's known to do going into turn one. But I'm glad we're on the same page there at least.
That wasn't Lando blowing it. Okay, so fast forward to the end of the race. Lando is caught up to Max. They're fighting for P3. Lando gets close to him, tries the overtake in the corner, and Max just runs him off the track. So far, so much so that Max himself goes off the track. I'm sorry. Max had all four wheels off the track. George Russell had at least two wheels on track and did the same move and got a penalty for it earlier in the race. You can't deny that. Max hit the apex and then did not turn left. He ran Lando off the track. He did. Lando passed him on the outside, sure. But according to the FIA, is this not a motor race?
Well, Sean, here's the thing.
Hold on. Sorry. Let me just get through this and you guys can just have at me. Lando should have given the place back. McLaren should have been like, hey, to be safe, we're quicker anyway. Give the place back and go get him. McLaren should have. Then they're like, no, we're checking, but you should be fine. Yeah, we're checking. No. Hey, Lando, you passed on the outside. You know the FIA has a hard-on for that. Give the place back real quick and then go get him somewhere else because you can still pass him. You still got, I think at that point, they had like 5 laps to go. He was going to get him. They should have just played it safe. So I could give the place back, but they didn't. Hoping
so they screwed up strategy again.
Hoping that Lando could at least gain a 5-second advantage in the last couple of laps, which he almost did. In that case, a 5-second penalty wouldn't have mattered. Gets a 5-second penalty for passing off the track, even though Max pushed him off the track and he had nowhere to go. I don't know what you do with that one, but McLaren didn't do it. That's the only answer I got.
So here's the approach as a racer. When you get the lead in the DRS straight and you see somebody who's going to go for a late lunge and try to cut you off on the inside, you back out first. Keep the car on the track, and he'll switch back on the inside. So that when they go flying off the track, you're still on the track and you can just clean up right after it and stay in front. And he didn't do that. And that speaks to all of their battles this year. Neither of them have given an inch, and you think, well, that's competitors. But no, it's stupid competition. It's arrogance. It's ego. It's not being smart in the moment. And he paid for it. Yes. Did he get run off the track? Yes. But you can see that coming. Prepare for it. You're on the outside. In any instance, going into that specific turn, you always want to try to let off early because you have to go wide around. You have to keep the car stable.
Do I have to bring back Austria? Do I have to bring up Austria? He tried the same thing. He tried the switcheroo, and Max then moved under braking.
Boxed him out. Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter. Max doesn't fight fair. I mean, he's a great racer. Max.
So leave yourself space there. You know that happened. Leave yourself space and just.
Max does not fight fair when it comes to passing him, especially.
That doesn't negate what I just said, though. There's a way to actually survive that. You can let Max self-sabotage and just stay outside, leave yourself space, keep the car under control, and swoop right around. And it didn't happen.
That's the thing. I just don't understand why McLaren took that risk. It felt so
Yeah.
clear that Max was ahead, and anyone that had done that received a penalty. And I agree with you, Sean. Like, what I would have said to Lando is 5-second penalty is likely. Just give the place back, and then we have all these laps. I think it was like 5 laps or something
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it
to
was 5.
retake. But
They-
instead, like, Zach Brown is not doing himself any favors because he made a comment to Danica about just all over the place this episode. But he made
Joe
a
Rogan was
comment to
also in
her.
the McLaren paddock this weekend.
He was.
Bad look all around for the McLaren.
And Donald Trump was at my football team's game too. Why do I root for these teams?
John, we got it. We'll talk privately about that. It's almost time to stage an intervention. But maybe Zach and Danica like get along for all sorts of reasons because the people he attracts. But he made a comment to her about, oh, fans in jeans watching from their couch with a beer in their hand, coaching the drivers. It's like, brother, we see all of the awful, consistent decision making from the pit box. And honestly, like people would love to hear some accountability. And when
Yeah.
you sit there, like it honestly felt like the Browns players where you're blaming the fans. It's like, take control of your team. Like it was before Monaco that I went on that huge rant about like, yeah, they're having some success, but like show me again and again and again. He's won one since then. And then how many times has he lost? Like we're just seeing the same mistakes that we talked about earlier in the season. Take some accountability. Like if I'm a McLaren fan, I'm screaming from the rooftops right now.
Yeah.
It's
And
just
I mean,
so frustrating. And even as just like an F1 fan that's enjoying that it's really close, I would love a legit title fight. And it's fun that it's gotten so close, but like, come on, you guys.
They're a
the
team
other
that
side of that
doesn't-
coin.
They don't know how to operate as winners.
No,
still,
no,
they
They
haven't
don't.
learned all year.
No. The other side of that coin, though, is again, you look at what George Russell got a 5-second penalty for earlier in the race, and it was the same thing. He pushed a driver off the track and got a 5-second penalty. Max did the same thing, and people are starting to point out the inconsistencies when it comes to Max Verstappen. And there are inconsistencies because he's treated differently than other drivers. It's almost like the FIA has to baby him and go, "Oh, he's just Max." You know,
No, Sean. Here,
Max will be Max.
if he came away from that move in the lead and they both went off track, he would get the penalty. That's why Lando got the penalty because he came away with the lead. That's it. That's all it is. It's as simple as that. Like I know what you're saying, and I don't disagree with the rest of that. But in this instance, if he came out with the lead, he would get the penalty for going off track and gaining an advantage.
I will
it's as
say,
simple as that.
later on, Max attempted to come back because once again, Lando just for some reason just kind of coasted after he passed him. Maybe he was thinking of giving the place back, and Lando had a dangerous move and moved under braking. An evasive maneuver, but I think rules in F1 honestly altogether need to change a little bit to allow for a little bit more, let's say, shoulder to shoulder racing. Like not quite to the level of NASCAR where you can literally dump somebody if you want, but we need to. It's racing. Like contact will be made. We need to be able to get our elbows out a little bit, especially when you've got guys that are in a title fight. We can talk about this as much as we want, but if Lando pulls that off after Max forced him off the track, and we say, "Yeah, hell of a move by Lando," I mean, I think race fans would just like to see that in general. Or as Oscar Piastri said after the race, just put some gravel there and it fixes everything.
Yeah,
Oscar,
Wasn't it that same place that the same thing happened to Max, but he was in Lando's position with Kimi Räikkönen, and it ended up costing him the podium?
That's a
I
deep
can't
dive.
recall. Yeah, I can't recall.
That's a deep dive that I cannot recall off the top of my head, but I will believe you because Katie, if we've learned anything, you have sourced all of your material tonight.
Kimi Räikkönen in an Alfa
Did my own
Romeo
research.
or in a Ferrari? How long ago was this?
I'm trying to think. I feel like it was like Kimmy's last year.
Okay.
I could totally be spreading misinformation right now. So
Ah, damn it,
just thought
Katie, you
maybe
were doing so well.
my memory serves correctly, I think I watched that race and remember that happening. But before I say that, I should go look. I was asking you guys if you remember, but anyways, I feel it was kind of a similar situation, and it cost Max third place.
Real quick, just to go back to Oscar Piastri, because Lando got that 5-second penalty, which put him in danger of actually dropping back to 5th place if his teammate could get within 5 seconds of him. And he was asked after the race, were you told to ease up at all? And Oscar said, "Oh yeah, I got the message. Slow down just a bit to make sure you don't take points away from Lando." He's like, which is understandable. He goes, given the situation, because You know how Oscar is just so dry and basically the new Kimi Räikkönen almost, and just tells it how it is. He pulls no punches. He is no BS. He is so fun to watch, honestly, and watch interviews as well. Like when he becomes that star driver that we all think he'll be, he's going to be hilarious. And he basically was like, "Yeah, I have no idea what Max was doing," and then he goes, "But he did pass off the track. I don't know, put gravel there, and then we won't go so deep. No one will go off track."
He's so unintentionally funny because we've talked about this before. He's always at one level, doesn't go too high, doesn't go too low, and it makes it really funny in situations that absolutely call for.
You know what? That's the mentality of a champion.
Champion
Right there.
Liam Lawson.
Lawson in the points
finish.
Double Haas points.
Pinto.
They were
Good
on
day for
one this
him.
weekend. Haas was looking good.
Yeah,
This
they
was
did.
I feel so bad because we're talking about Max and Lando again so much, but Ferrari absolutely dominated this weekend. Now they're in the race for second place, or they already were in the Constructors' Championship, and maybe they're a sneaky favorite to win the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship next year. Just maybe with Lewis Hamilton coming in there, so that should be fun. You had Franco Colapinto again having an amazing race. There's a lot of good storylines in F1 right now, and it just continues to dominate. So I feel bad that we're just talking about Max and Lando again, but it sells papers. So again,
those still exist,
right?
I was nervous about Carlos though at the beginning because he had such a good start. He was looking so good, and then he's like, "Yeah, I'm smelling fuel." And then they're like, "Oh yeah, we are checking," and
we're checking.
We are checking. So they're checking everything. And then they're like, "Yeah, do this and this and this." And then there was one point where Carlos goes, "What is that?"
Are you on fire?
Question, plan A, are you on fire? But he came back on again, and it was actually kind of scary. Like there was some urgency in his voice this time because he's had a car on fire before.
Yeah.
And he goes, "You guys, it smells like fuel in here." And he was like reiterating. So I was surprised they didn't pull him into the pits. But when he was saying that, he had just gone past the pit lane. But I was really happy that didn't materialize in anything, because if you're smelling fuel, I'm like, oh my God, the car, like it feels like it's going to blow up. Like get off the track right now. So I'm really, really happy that worked for him, because I just love seeing he's driving so well at the end of his Ferrari tenure that it's like he's got a chip on his shoulder. You could feel it right now. And it's really, really exciting to watch. So I'm happy that the car didn't fail him in that situation, because he had an amazing race.
We can only hope that when he gets to Williams, he continues to show his talent, because right now, I mean, Williams has a pretty good pairing of Franco Colapinto and Alex Albon. And I mean, Colapinto is driving the wheels off that car. He's beating Alex Albon, or, at least driving to that level, something Logan Sargent, Nicholas Latifi could never do.
Out for the homies.
Yeah. I'm out. Sorry. But you hope that you don't take a step back when you add someone like Carlos, who's driven in, Red Bulls and McLarens and Ferraris, and go, screw this. I'm not going to try as hard because I'm in a Williams. Like Frank.
Nah, he's not built like that.
He doesn't have
I
that.
know. Yeah. Hey, you never know. Sometimes you take a step back and go to a team like that and it just doesn't click. So I hope that doesn't happen.
My worry wouldn't be that it's an attitude issue with him of like, oh, I'm in a like.
my
worry would be a Daniel Ricciardo situation where you're just in a completely different setup. And even though you're a good driver, he's been with, although like McLaren to Ferrari, he did really well. But that would be my worry, is just going into a completely different system and then having a bit of a hard time adjusting to it. Because like Danny Rick just like never settled in again, really, outside of Red Bull. And obviously Red Bull was really, really good. But
speaking of, did you see at the Circuit of the Americas, they had a tent where you could write letters to Daniel?
Yes.
No.
Yes. They had a tent and it said, write letters to Cowboy Daniel, and it had Daniel Ricciardo in a cowboy hat. I want to know, what they're doing with those letters and if he's actually getting them. But real quick, impromptu segment. What would your letters say, guys?
Dear Daniel, thank you for being a pitchman for F1, for being a podcast guest that brings F1 to the world, and for having no filter when the time calls for it. You weren't the best. You were kind of fun. But most importantly, you were funny as hell.
Right on, cowboy.
Hook 'em.
I would say, Daniel, you were right. Netflix are a bunch of see you next Tuesdays.
That is what he said.
That is what he said. I fear that if it's just between Daniel and I, then maybe mine shouldn't be said loud.
That's a fair point. We'll end it there for F1 talk. I'm kidding. We've got the Mexican Grand Prix coming up here this week.
Wait. Did we get any vibes notes, Katie?
Oh,
yeah,
not this
vibe
time
notes.
because I watched the race between 2 days. It was like 1 a.m. last night and then this morning, and the vibes weren't super high when I was watching it. So they're not an all the time thing, but they are a special treat when
All
they
right.
happen.
Just had to check the box. All right, Sean.
Got the Mexican Grand Prix coming up. If you haven't seen, Alpine came out with a really cool shirt drop where they got like some Aztec symbols on the
Ooh.
Alpine shirt. Yeah, it looks kind of cool. Anyway,
Also, Pierre had a really good quali. Pierre had
yeah,
good vision.
P6.
The race didn't go too well for him, but I just wanted to flag that too because that was a really fun. There was a lot of fun
Flag.
little storylines throughout the
Flag.
weekend.
Flagging that.
Katie's Canadian accent has been coming out tonight, and I love
It
it.
has been a boot flag. It's because she practiced her Pittsburghese
Sorry.
or Yinzer accent, so it kind of just brought out the natural Canadianness of Katie Caldwell. Mexico, we're going to Sergio's home race where it has been rumored he might retire. I don't buy it, but it's been rumored.
No, I
It's
wouldn't
always
mind
been
that.
rumored. Huh?
I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah,
Again,
for real.
like-
Put someone else in that seat for the
Yeah.
love of God. Race predictions?
Katie, go ahead.
Oh, I wasn't prepared for this. I forgot that we were doing predictions for the next one.
I mean, it's a
Top of the head.
combination of like 5 drivers, so just pick them.
And I also am not on the pod next week, so even if I'm totally wrong, there's no accountability, so that's really great.
None.
We never have any accountability on this podcast.
No. If we only talk about our predictions if they're like bang on.
Yep.
And I love that about
Victory laps only on the Gridiron Podcast.
I'm going to say P1 George Russell.
Mercedes.
Out
Been
of
looking
completely
quick.
left
Been looking
field.
quick, yeah.
And then I'm going to say Carlos and then Lando.
Oh, that's a fun
No Red
top
Bull at all on the podium. Nick,
Okay,
go
all
ahead.
right. Max Verstappen P1. That car looks good again, and
It does look
Max
good.
drove it quite well. I was shocked. He would have been pole if George didn't crash in quali. Like guarantee he would have been on pole. He was like 0.2 up going through sector 1. So Max Verstappen P1. Carlos Sainz P2.
Nice.
Oscar Piastri P3.
Nice.
I will go Max Verstappen P1, Oscar Piastri P2, Charles Leclerc P3.
Oh, his faith in Lando is gone.
No. Here's my bold prediction, which I never do, but my bold prediction: Lando DNFs,
Oh,
and thus
Hmm.
ending his title hopes for good.
yes, finally, so we can.
I
Stop
will
talking
say
about
that.
it.
I will say that Lando DNFs. I don't know why. I'm not saying he's going to crash, but I feel it in my bones. Something's happening this week. Something's happening this week. That all we got for F1?
Yeah, Troy Meeker said he loves the new format. Thank you, Troy. But he
But
said just missing one thing.
Troy,
but,
brother,
What could
you can't
that
do
be,
this.
Troy?
Don't do this to me.
Troy, what could that be? Let us know. What are we
email
mi-
at the
Nick,
Gridiron
what are we
Podcast
missing?
3.
What are we missing, Nick?
Send your complaints
I
to the
can't
Gridiron
yet.
Podcast 3 at gmail.com.
Or send them to what's your Twitter, Katie?
Nobody DM me. Nobody DM me. My DM
DMs
requests
are
are already
closed.
weird enough. I don't
they're
need to
already
go digging
strange.
in there.
No.
That is the folder that my eyes do not look at.
Oh, goodness gracious.
She's protecting herself. She's smart.
You know what? I just thought of a new segment. Let's read Katie's DMs.
That's not.
The podcast would be
Go
shut
down
down
that deep,
immediately.
Dark
and
hole.
You guys would fly to Canada strictly to just console me for what that looks like.
No,
You'd probably get fired too.
Yeah.
All of us
probably.
would somehow get fired.
Somehow the
it's dark in
FCC
there.
would then take, I don't know if they have any jurisdiction over the internet, but they would find some just because we read out Katie's DMs. All right, this has been episode 52 of the Gridiron Podcast. If you like what you heard, subscribe, drop us a like, a listen, a review. We can read it out on air. And as always, you can email your complaints about a missing segment or just what you like about the podcast to the Gridiron Podcast 3 at gmail.com. That's the Gridiron Podcast 3. Damn those other two. At gmail.com. Anything else, guys, before we get out of here?
I got nothing.
Cool. For Nick Shook and Katie Caldwell, I am Sean Barie. As always, live life in the fast lane, folks.
And don't jump into a river that's caught on fire 14 times.
Unless you drink 3 Dortmunder Golds.
Or 5 Christmas ales. Good night, Canada.
Good night, Reagan.
Especially Dildo Canada.
Peace.